In this video, we're going to be giving a training breakdown of Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. My name's Danny Wilson, a strength and conditioning coach that's worked with over 100 amateur and professional boxers. In this video, we're going to be looking at the training methods of Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. This is a fight I cannot wait for. I was at the press conference just last week where we have Fabio Wardley defending his British and Commonwealth title, and to see Beterbiev and Bivol face off against each other in person was unbelievable. I cannot wait for this fight, and we're going to be out there in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Before that though, let's have a look at their training methods. Beterbiev and Bivol, unbelievable athletes, and they have pretty unique training methods. So this is taken from our Boxing Science React series where we analyse the training methods of world champions. So let's take a look at the highlights of Beterbiev's and Bivol's training preparations. So this is the one that I get asked a lot of questions about, is hand conditioning. I actually met Beterbiev in Chicago when he was fighting on the same card as one of the fighters that I was working with. I was running on fight day. I normally do a workout on fight day just to take my mind off things. And I was running on the treadmill and I just see this big guy next to me. Look to the right, it was Beterbiev running backwards on the treadmill on fight day. And then he gets off and starts doing all these routines and everything. He was one scary guy. The size of him, such a big guy to be able to do this, really strong. I wouldn't advise everybody to go and try this. Beterbiev has been doing this for years and has become really efficient at doing it and build that strength over time. If somebody goes and tries this for the first time and hasn't got that wrist strength, they might end up getting injured. It's the amount of time that you've got to invest into this to get as good as Beterbiev and as efficient as this. That time could be invested elsewhere, whether that's into your mobility, whether that's into your strength training, your core conditioning, which is more likely to have a bigger transferred effect into your boxing. This move here, when it goes onto the inside, a lot of wrist flexion. This is what boxers are more prone to doing and really need to work on wrist extension to be able to maintain that wrist kind of alignment with the fist, and that will help protect the hand and also all the upper limb there. So if you're going to work on anything, you want to be working on extension. You can do the fingertip one just on the wall, going backwards and forwards, and that's something that I picked up from Ian Gatt on the Boxing Science Conference. Instead of working on wrist flexion, working on wrist extension. So doing some dumbbell reverse curls, dumbbell reverse wrist curls to work on that wrist extension rather than working on flexion. He's f***ing unbelievable. What's more impressive here is that it's all his body weight that goes into it. Look, he's lifting up his feet at the same time, and all his body weight's going through that. So, like I said, it's years and years of practice, something that I wouldn't advise everybody to do. Okay, so we're going for some banded pull-off work here with partner isometrics. Fantastic move there. So a little bit of a cue there to get them obliques fired up before going into the powerful rotations. This is good for intent and also cueing that oblique activation, because a lot of boxers will struggle to actually isolate them obliques, look to try and compensate either by turning the hips or using the lower back. A great tool, something that we've used before in terms of like doing complexes, so doing it up against the wall, doing some pull-off isometrics before going into rotational throw, getting this instant feedback, pushing against it with a band and then just letting go. That's going to power up them banded rotations. So that's a pretty cool exercise that Bivol's using here. Another famous one, something that we've actually covered on the Boxing Science YouTube channel before, bar rotations. To do this with 20 kilos, he is so strong, so strong. Doing it going from a pronated to supinated position, put a lot of kind of stress through this elbow joint here on the inside of the elbow. Boxers will probably tend to try and flare up the elbow to control that and won't have that strength and stability there. You could do it with a mop or a broomstick, then go on to like a lighter bar rather than trying to do this with a 20 kilo bar. You're just likely to get injured. Like I said, with the press-up ones, Beterbiev has probably been doing this for years. What is good is the turnovers, and you can do this in an isolated way to work on the forearm strength. And doing this with a biased loading to a dumbbell, getting onto a table, doing some wrist rockers, going from side to side, going from pronated to supinated position. This is probably going to be better for you and won't take that much time to be able to kind of load that up. I think the opening and closing is a good exercise to do. Maybe doing this with a broomstick or with a mop or light bar. Let's start doing these kind of bias dumbbell turnovers. That's going to be more effective, increasing wrist and hand strength. So here we've got some ice skaters into rotational throw. Great for lateral movement, really working that rear hip there to work that power. So it's loading up that rear hip, driving through, and also driving that into some trunk rotation as well. This is particularly good for Bivol. When you look at his footwork, he does like go from back foot to forward foot a lot, using that balance for his offensive and defensive movements. He's seen this in the Canelo fight, where he had Canelo basically pinned up against the ropes, staying out of danger as well. So this is where you can see strength and conditioning having direct effect onto his boxing performance. Another one here is you can see that not only is it working that hip rotation that can transfer to backhand power, you also got the braking force of the front leg, creating more momentum for that front leg to basically to control. And this is really important, again, with Bivol going into offensive actions. Braking leg is really important to be able to transfer that force, but also not be able to lean over that front leg. As you can see that Bivol is maintaining that posture, even though he's hopping onto that front leg with some force, some action. And then as he comes back into that action, he's having to control that, get that glute med fired up, load it up, and then fire through. So this is a fantastic exercise. You can do it up against the wall, or you can do it as single efforts with a partner catching. This exercise is something that I probably wouldn't put into any programs, but the technique of this is fantastic. Like you can see there, that is getting into that pike off the floor, tucking up the toes, and then dropping in, and his hips stay in neutral position. And then getting enough power to drive up his hips there and get off the floor. Impressive, really impressive. To transfer this into your programs, TRX pike, doing a Swiss ball pike, and this will help improve like kind of your core strength, but also it's great for serratus anterior strength and also working that shoulder mobility and stability as well. It's a cool exercise, but it's something that's probably unachievable. So we've got some med ball punch throws, obviously a fantastic exercise that we use down at Boxing Science to develop hand speed, kinetic chain sequencing through the punching action. What you can see with Bivol here is actually he's maintaining his boxing stance. Now this is quite good if it's going into like a boxing specific workout. If it's a strength and conditioning workout, I'd actually change them from orthodox to southpaw, because you can see in his positioning at the end of that right hand, it's a full body movement. It's getting it from the lower body, full torso rotation, and then going through to the fist. Whereas like in the jabbing action, it goes very arm dominant. It's not really getting that rotation through. The imbalances are created through hours and hours of boxing. You don't want to be in the strength and conditioning gym adding to them imbalances. It's an exercise to develop the force from the lower body through the core, kinetic chain sequencing through to the fist. At Boxing Science, when we do our med ball throws, even though we want it to be specific to the boxing action, we also want to work the physical capabilities of the fighter. So we'd always change from orthodox southpaw. Don't see many boxers actually doing Olympic lifting. Now, Boxing Science, we're big fans of Olympic lifting, how it improves strength, speed, explosiveness, that kinetic chain sequencing, creating that isometric strength, like in the stab in the catching action. The reasons why we don't use full variations is probably what Beterbiev is showing here. They don't have that kind of mobility and technique to make it effective in terms of loading, to improve strength and speed, to make it a safe exercise as well, and reducing the likelihood of injury. Beterbiev is struggling to get that front racked position, putting a lot of loading through the wrists and through the elbows, and that's probably why he's using some straps there to reduce the amount of loading going through the wrist. And also the catch position there is onto his toes, very knee dominant, knees are coming in as well. He's probably using his back a lot on here, and that's probably why he's using the Olympic lifting belt there to reduce the loading through the back, which if he just improved his technique, will reduce that loading better and make it a safer exercise. So this is a really interesting move. I like this one. It's separating the upper body and lower body, which is fantastic for kinetic chain sequencing. Is challenging that rotational function and that momentum. That bar is swinging round and all his legs are either one turning or turn out, and his glutes have really got switched on with this. I've got a few ideas how you can progress to this, because this is quite an advanced move. Like, to do this with 20 kilo, I think is pretty challenging. So here are a few different progressions that we do quite often. Is sitting into the wall, really putting force through the floor, and then trying to increase that rotational function, scooping underneath, getting that glute med to switch on. Then you can transfer that into doing it with either bands, or you can do it with a medicine ball before you move on to the Olympic bar. But yeah, great exercise. I think I'm going to steal this one and put it into the boxing science program. Doing alternate shoulder press is something that we've been using quite a lot. Great little tip that you can do is actually bring the feet in, have a foam roller in between the legs. And what this does is eliminate any kind of rotational action, side bending, or kind of flaring of the rib cage. Rocking a little bit from side to side and also compensating through the lower back. Knees are quite wide there. It would get a lot more out of the action, a lot more out of the shoulders if you just had them feet a little bit close together, squeezing the foam roller, core tense, and then also waiting for that dumbbell to come all the way back in, pull it down, and then back up. Keep the core nice and tense. Obliques have really got to work, and also no compensatory patterns, so it increases activation of the shoulder. So great exercise to use. Russian training and his American training very different. I can see the style of training as well. There's actually some old video footage, I think it's like Russian 1950s amateur boxers doing these med ball throws and doing this kind of activity. So this is really traditional boxing training, working on that rotation. What I like is that it's actually throwing some punches after it. So it's working on that rotation, but then how he transfers that back over. Full rotation into that punch, working all the way over, and then working that over into left hook. Okay guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're wanting to watch full breakdown of each Beterbiev's and Bivol's training methods, go and check out the full episodes on our YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber to the Boxing Science YouTube channel yet, hit that subscribe button to help the growth of the channel so we can bring you even bigger and better content. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next one.